So today, I will show you how to create a configuration for Marvel Rivals. Before we start, my config will primarily focus on being able to play the game. As you probably know, this game is trying to detect mouse and keyboard users. Since this also applies to gyro users, my recommendations will work for them as well. Another focus of this configuration will be to provide an excellent aiming experience, which honestly is not that easy to achieve in this game. I will address the in-game settings at the end of the video. While I slowly go through the configuration, please carefully listen to the following words. First off, it will be mandatory to use analog movement. You can choose your preferred analog device, but it is not possible to play with a normal keyboard. This includes analog keyboards. Please make sure to follow this fundamental requirement. Also, I will intentionally not show any smart actions in this video because a lot of those are very detectable. Things like orbital aim assist are just incredibly easy to detect by the game developer, so do not use such things if you do not want to risk your account. The same goes for rapid fire. One of the few things that are fine though is anti-recoil. The reason behind that is that your aiming usually adds enough variance when shooting. You should also refrain from using incredibly fast sensitivities. The higher your sensitivity, the more SAB you will need. If you are not too familiar with dialing in your SAB, then just use the values that this configuration is recommending. That should be sufficient for 95% of all players. You can probably use less, but test it with a Smurf account first to be safe. Please make sure to also use the trigger SAB value from this video. This game is the only one out there which requires this. Your mouse DPI value is also quite important. When your value is too high, your mouse sensor will create a noisy signal. This will make it harder to not get detected. So ideally, do not use a value of more than 12,000. The same applies to very low values too, so do not use values of 800 or less. This is why this configuration is only using 8,000 DPI. For quantization, I have chosen very low values. These will remove inconsistencies in your aiming and make your output appear closer to a controller. The same goes for smoothing. The values are intended to remove stutter which controllers do not have. It is also mandatory to update your XIM to the new firmware. The new beta comes with a heavily improved SAB algorithm, and you will not need to use test flight with it. All details can be found in this video here, which I have linked in the video description. At last, we have to discuss the scanning system itself. The higher your rank, the more the game will inspect your inputs. That means if you are in gold or platinum, then you can ignore most of what I have just said. But the higher your hidden rank is, the more this will become important. Please keep in mind that your displayed rank must not be the same as your hidden rank. You could only play quick play and eventually get scanned because your hidden rank might have gotten too high. Overall, your movement plays the biggest role because it is the easiest to scan. This is why analog movement is so important. Aiming is only really checked in the highest ranks. There I would strongly avoid to use the aforementioned smart actions. In the highest ranks, the game is also using human inspection, so maybe avoid to taunt your enemy by making very obvious mouse movements. As for the in-game settings, let's check what the website recommends. This game is one of the very few games that use several aim mechanics. 99% of all games only have one mechanic. This helps to provide a consistent experience throughout the entire game. For some reason, the game developer thought that it might be a good idea to use several mechanics. Because of that, the aiming will not always feel consistent. This affects normal controller players in the same way as XIM users. Now, since this game is using several mechanics, it is not compulsory to use the recommended settings from this website. This is because each mechanic would need different settings to feel optimal. As a result, we have a bit of a margin here that we can use to our advantage. What I mean by that is that it is not unlikely that the game developer is also checking your in-game settings. Since every XIM user normally plays with the same in-game settings, it would be easy to use that as a scanning parameter. Based on community feedback, this could be the case, which is why I recommend to use a bit of variation in your settings. For the first two values, I recommend to pick something between 400 and 500. Make sure to use the same value for both so that your sensitivity stays linear. It doesn't matter which value you pick from this range, which also applies to the next few values as well. The exponential curve below, however, is mandatory, so do not change it. It is also the default value that controller players use, so it doesn't have any potential for detection. The range for the curve value below is between 5 and 9. Any value in that range plays good. For the next two values, it is best to stay close to the recommended values. The range here is between 1 and 10, but stay close to the displayed value. So for example, 9 and 6 would work, or 8 and 5. The next value is quite influential. I would recommend to keep it on 0 or increase it by maybe 1 step. And the last value only defines how quickly you reach the maximum turn speed. Here you can select any value that you want to. For a closer PC experience, use a very low value, so something between 0 to 20. As for the aim assist window, I recommend to use a really low value. Similar to Overwatch, you will only get enough assistance when using a low value. If you want to use smart actions, then in the video description you can find a link to a configuration which contains a lot of them. You can insert them into your setup if you want to, but always keep in mind what I have said earlier. I know that this configuration tutorial was a lot different to my normal ones, so please let me know if it was still helpful.
So guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button or maybe even subscribe to this channel to not miss out on any of the upcoming videos. Also, contrary to popular belief, this channel is not an official XIM channel. I run this channel in my free time to bring you guys the latest XIM news and tricks. So if you want to support what I do, then maybe consider to join the YouTube channel membership. Channel members usually get around 1 to 4 weeks of early access to all new videos. Plus, we also have a nice little Discord to discuss XIM settings and other stuff. But that's about it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching and I will maybe see you in the next one.